their own decision.
You see both of them start in the sanctuary. I wasn't totally sure if we might have immediate divergence or not.
Oh, wow. I thought, looking at the spoiler log, that this might be a thing, but Kyong is actually making an immediate Houlihan room play right out of the gate, while Wulfy's going to Kakariko instead.
Yeah, we had a bit of a discussion on that. I think we had actually disagreed to what our own approaches would be. We'll see how this one works out for each of them. I'm actually interested in this.
I mean, this is an opening that I really like in Blind Seeds, so to see it in a spoiler race just really makes me happy. So what Kyong's going to go do from here is he's going to go to the shop just south of, or just north of Lake Hyliab, one screen south of here. He's going to buy his bombs there.
Yeah, worth noting, Kyong bailed out before collecting all of the money. He only got 160 rupees. I think it's like, what, 225 in there total?
Yeah, but he didn't really need them all. Needs 50 to buy the bombs, so still got 110 left for whatever comes up. Actually, that's exactly enough to get him into Palace of Darkness if he wants to. And then meanwhile, on the other side, while we were talking about that, Wulfy did pick up a hammer and a moon pearl, and he has enough money to buy his own bombs as well from the Kakariko.
Also got one of the best safeties in the game in the magic powder. Does lock one item. He actually can check magic bat right now if something's on it. He just needs enough magic to throw that powder.
I don't think he's going to find that magic anywhere in Kakariko, though, which is unfortunate.
We actually see continued divergence here as Kyong heads over towards Eastern. Picks up his flute out of the old man's hut, so that'll actually speed up his trip. Wulfy's obviously going to have to make a trip back to Kakariko to activate that later.
Yeah, we did see Wulfy grab the Book of Medora out of that chicken hut. That does 3 things for you in a spoiler race. It lets you check the Ether tablet, check the Bombos tablet, and get into Desert Palace the vanilla way. So, if he grabbed that I say if he grabbed that item, we're going to see it used for one of those 3. I have also seen at least a couple runners pick it up strictly for easier menuing. So,
yeah, nothing wrong with that. We also see him grab the ice rod, the bane of many a non-spoiler seed runner's times, but very easy to access here.
Yep. And on the other side, we see Kyong finish up his early route. Does get a 50-50 bomb, a little bit of good luck. And instead of going straight to Kak to activate that flute, he's going south. Looks like Wulfy will be following the Sahasrara and Eastern Palace play, though, after finishing his Kakariko sweep.
Yeah, so he's going to have to go back to Kak to activate the flute, but he did not take the time to do Houlihan. Means he's behind a little bit on rupees going forward as well, but I'm kind of interested to see which of those approaches works out better.
Yeah, I definitely am too. And the big thing working in Wulfy's favor going back to Kakariko is he'll be able to go straight to the Dark World if he wants to. Which Kyong, with the glove he got out of Eastern, obviously be able to do the same when he does choose to go to Kakariko on his first trip. But either way, that's just a nice activate your flute, and you can go to the Thieves' Town area if you so choose. And I wouldn't be surprised actually to see these runners converge at that Dark World entry. Wulfy, I mean, Kyong did go to Mini Moldworm Cave. He got a heart container and a sword out of it. Wulfy may or may not do that. We'll see when he finishes his Eastern dip, grabs his gloves. But at that point, that would be convergence after the very different openings.
Yeah, Kyong also got, I think, 300 rupees out of there, so he's now at 480 to Wulfy's 60.
He can buy whatever the heck he wants.
Well, except for bribing a certain fish, but other than that.
I mean, there are more than a few rupees in Kakariko as well. We saw Wulfy pick the 50 up out of the well. He's getting 30 out of these pots here. Okay, never mind, just 50, and I'm a liar. But being 5 rupees short of being able to bribe the fish, I wouldn't worry about that. Especially with he's going to go to the well as well, and well, I thought he might. The powder was the only thing in there, but
So we're actually going to see continued divergence. Wulfy does not go to Mini Moldorm Cave, instead heading over towards Height Cave.
yeah. That's the other main Dark World entry, and Hype Cave usually has at least something to make it worth visiting, like that sword.
And that single arrow.
I mean, real talk, he obviously went back into the back for those bombs. Not like there was a safety back there or anything on top. And chat talking about Eastern Palace dips. I will take this time to remind everybody, you can see the trackers down at the bottom of both player screens. Eastern Palace, along with Swamp Palace and Misery Mire, are our pendant dungeons this seed. So, only reason we'll see either runner go back into Eastern Palace is if the Armos Knights is holding a good item, or they need the pedestal.
So we are actually going to see Wulfy also get the sword from Mini Moldorm Cave, go up to Master Sword already.
Good position to be in. Gotta love being able to actually deal damage.
Yeah, there have actually been a lot of really rude seeds in this tournament with swords, like people heading into the late game on Fighter or Master Sword. It's kind of nice to see one where that is not the case.
Yeah, not even 10 minutes in yet, and we've already seen 2 of them. But I guess when you think about it this way, they're not that far apart. The flute activation is what, like 7 seconds?
Something like that. Wulfy's got an extra sword. Kyong got a bottle, I think it had a red potion in it from the back of Blind's hideout.
It was a B, and he was able to get a heart container from Sick Kid with it as well, but yes.
Oh, was it a B? Okay.
But yeah, Wulfy does have the sword advantage, but other than that, they're quite close. So, but with that hammer doing tempered sword damage, we'll see how much the sword really matters.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have some convergence here as Wulfy's heading after Kyong into the Dark World.
Yeah, they've picked up all the good stuff in the early light world right now, so where else are you gonna get?
We might be going to the big chest, seeing how Kyong ride in Skullwood's big key.
Yeah, this is about the most roundabout Skull Woods routing you can be forced into without having to actually leave the dungeon. It was a bow for his trouble, though. If he really wanted to, he could walk over to Palace of Darkness and get a crystal. Also, chat giving the Fs, but that death was intentional, friends. There's no way it wasn't.
Yeah, that looked like a, what we might call the free version of the mirror.
Yeah, he would have to bomb jump himself to get back across the pit, or I guess just fall in like Wulfy did. But he was already only on like 2 hearts, so why not take the refill while you're at it? Chat doesn't play Toho. I'm a little bit sad. They don't know the meaning of the death sprite.
I actually use that sprite because that's what I learned all the bomb jumps with, but I actually also don't play Toho.
It's a shooting game, and the death sprite is a full power pickup. So you pick it up and you're back at full power and you keep shooting things. But that's not linked to the past, so... Let's watch Kyong clear Thieves Town. He doesn't have the boots for all these long straightaways. And things are doing damage, he's getting kind of bullied around, but it'll be okay.
Yeah, hits him with the fighter sword a few times and then just pulls out the hammer.
And he's taking advantage of some game knowledge to know where the hearts under pots are. But the fact that he needed to go out of his way for that one just kind of shows how he got pushed around a little bit in those earlier rooms. You don't normally see that one.
Yeah, thieves can be a little dangerous on low health. There's some... the hellway is obviously kind of rude. The rodent green things upstairs are terrifying on green mail. They do 2 hearts per hit.
Right. This is the bane of many inverted seeds. On the other side, we do see Wulfy's Master Sword taking out the blue, whatever they're called. I think it's Zyzax, but I can't remember. But takes out the blue ones in 1 hit, where Fighter Sword needs 2 hits to do the same. So that's sword advantage coming into play. And there's boots for all those straightaways that are... You can't run the early parts with them. Literally impossible. Sorry.
Yeah, we see Wulfy broke out the powder for a second there to get that fairy at the end of the hellway, but then realized he was out of magic. Does grab a couple of pots here, so he will be able to refill on his way out.
Yeah, I think those pots were his first magic pickup of the game, which we talked about checking Magic Bat being a possibility while he was still in his first dip in Kakariko. But there was no magic anywhere along his route for him to pick up until now. I guess there were a couple pots in Skullwoods, I think, actually, if he was willing to visit the rooms. But optimal routing didn't take him to those rooms, so also not really on the table. Oh god, that pun was bad.
I don't know, I always appreciate the puns that are at least sight or blind related.
Oh, it was a good pun, but damn, was it bad. Also, Kyong killing blind for me is showing us all why sword advantage doesn't actually matter.
Not for that fight, for sure.
Yeah, blind 9 hits regardless of what you hit him with, as long as it's something that can hit him at all. Which, just for people that haven't tried everything, the only weapons that'll hurt blind are your sword, your hammer, and both canes. No bow, no rods, no powder.
No
No.
bombs, although I would find it hilarious if you could try that. That sounds awful.
That sounds like something somebody should do for Orlando. Also, yeah, Wulfy did grab the ether out of Blind Cell that Kyong skipped. That will get him into Misery Mire if he so chooses. But that's a green pendant Misery Mire.
Yeah, we see Kyung go get the Master Sword out of Hype Cave, and now we see Wulfy taking a trip north to the castle.
Kyong equipping the flute looks like he's not doing the same. But it is going to be Aga Tower for Wulfy. And with the hammer in hand, there's really only one reason for it. Chat hasn't seen it because both of these runners have the spoiler log, so they know what's there. But we've got a prize on the lumberjack tree for you guys.
Yeah, Wulfy used a combination of Master Sword spin and wooden arrows on that first guard. I hadn't seen that approach before.
That's the pretty standard vanilla NMG approach. In fact, his equipment as a whole, the only thing that really makes him better than NMG here that you might see come into play is the hammer. But everything else should be just straight up NMG tech. Although not having the boomerang will make a couple of rooms slightly interesting.
So Kyong, 17 minutes into the seat is actually now up to Tempered Sword, grabbing it off Desert Ledge.
Yeah, I think you said earlier that this was the friendliest seed you've seen for swords in this tournament.
Yeah, there have been some really rude ones.
Okay, this next room for Wulfy after he kills these two red guards is going to be Circle of Pots. This is the room I was talking about when I said the boomerang might make it a little bit interesting, or the lack of a boomerang. But I guess without it, all you can really do is walk through the center to pick up that key. But for the most part, pretty standard and clean Aga Tower for Wulfy. He's just a couple rooms away from the top.
Saves himself from almost falling off the side there. Now we see Ice Rod strats from Kyong on Landmo, mix of that and Tempered Sword.
I wasn't aware Kyong had become a casual when I quit looking. But that was what? 2 cycles, and then the third, that got cleared out pretty much immediately, so 2.5, 3 cycles, however you want to score it. Pretty good fight.
Let's see how many blue balls we get here. I'm going to go with 6. That's the first one.
3 is the statistical average, so I'll go with that. People in chat are asking if Wulfy is capable of silverless Ganon on account of the ether pickup. I will say Wulfy has a sub 90-minute time in the vanilla no major glitches speedrun. So yes, I have no doubt he is thoroughly capable of that fight. Just like we saw with his vanilla speedrun experience coming into play with that Aga Tower climb.
It's a disappointing lack of blue balls in this case. My last Aga seed I called had opened with 8 of them in a row on ones that could have it.
That was funny. It wasn't fun, but it was funny. Anyways, Kyong is... He's going to have an easier time of Aga Tower with that Tempered Sword. It does twice as much damage as Master Sword, so a lot less time to kill both the blue and the red guards that he faces throughout.
Yeah, we're going to see some continued divergence here, though. Wulfy is still not heading over to Desert, instead going over towards Pod, not actually getting his prize from the Lumberjacks just yet.
Nah, but it's there. He can pick it up whenever he wants. And this, unless he wants to flute to 5, that pyramid drop after killing Aghanim is the closest he'll ever be to Palace of Darkness, and he's got bow, hammer, lamp. He can full clear it.
So Kyong's going to head into this Aga fight as Wulfy starts to route through Pod. Routing through Pod is kind of interesting. It's one of the things you can really plan out if you finish the rest of your route early, because the key logic in here can be a little funky.
Yeah, 6 keys, and it's a very non-linear dungeon by design, so a lot of different ways you can do it. Looks like we're seeing the right side, the bowlock side, from Wulfy. I'm trying to think through what exactly Wulfy is looking to grab out of here. If it is more than the big key, just double checking. Oh, and yes, of course, he's going to the back. Which, sure, the big key is back there, but it's not the only check he'll be making. He's setting up the hammer jump. And it looks like Kyong will be following right into Palace of Darkness afterward. So, there's a Titan's Blitz. That's the prize.
It's a pretty good prize.
No doubt about it. I'm just thinking, aside from the Desert Palace clear and the Tempered Sword pickup for Kyong, these runners are pretty much exactly on sync. Well, I say on sync. They've got the same checks going into Pod besides Desert.
Yeah, Wulfy's got like the powder and a little more health. I'm not sure if all of that came from within Pod. I know one of the hearts did.
I think, yeah, if Kyong picks up the same heart out of Pod that Wulfy did, they'll be back to even, because it's just a 1 heart difference right now. But there is a difference somewhere else that I can't remember where it came from, because Kyong got a heart from Sick Kid. Wulfy doesn't even have a bottle to check that. So there is at least one thing Wulfy got that Kyong did. Chat's also calling out Ether, but I think Wulfy just picked that up as a muscle memory sort of thing, because it was in Blind Cell and he had to go there to pick up Blind. Maybe it'll make his menu a little better a little later in the game, but I don't see any reason that would come into play. And I'm holding a spoiler log.
Yeah, I'm From watching Wulfy, I'm pretty sure that he is mostly just picking up all the chests in a location rather than trying to remember which one has the important items. He's done things like grab the single arrow and that kind of thing as well when he's in the location. And that's a good way to save time for other routing choices during your 15 minutes, because that time is pretty precious.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that at least in a couple locations, Kyong did do the same thing, like with the single arrow and the piece of heart in Height Cave, for example. But at the same time, he did outright skip the Kakariko well, which is where that powder came from. And we see he got the hammer extension hit on Helmasaur's jewel there a couple times by holding his sword out, slightly extending the hitbox, making it actually possible to hit his jewel with the hammer, getting a magic cape, and generally showing off why he's good at the vanilla speedrun. Because that's the same technique he used there, pretty much the exact same fight.
Yeah, I think so. Wulfy's basically desert behind, and Kyong's the rest of pod behind. I think it's pretty tight right now.
Yeah, I would say it's probably a slight edge to Kyong if we're trying to judge that right now. But there's still more than enough race left that I'm not really comfortable saying that means anything.
Yeah, if I were forced to call it, I'd say Kyong's 20 to 30 seconds behind. We do now see Wulfy heading up towards his lumberjack item.
Chat's gonna finally learn what that is. Last chance to get your guess in for it if you want to. And it's the Boing Boing. Which, good to note, Swamp Palace is a pendant. So the only places you'll need that, truly need that, are Hookshot Cave and the back of Ganon's Tower, unless you want to go to the back of Swamp Palace. Actually, wait, I tell a lie. He needs it for this location, too. You have to hookshot across that bridge. Chad's joking about hovering. You cannot hover that gap. You have to hookshot it. It's just generally not seen as a big deal because oftentimes you can get the mirror and use the other route instead. But no mirror.
No silverless either, because we do see silvers get grabbed there.
Nice and easy in the way. Tempered Sword, Silver's Ganon. Always nice to see, because that's the fastest. Well, I say fastest. Gold Sword is not theoretically faster, but it practically can be if you get bad RNG, you're just mis-executing.
Or if, like me, you're just bad.
Oh yeah, for those of us that are bad, having Gold Sword makes the first two phases of Ganon free. Just like Tempered Sword makes that Helmasaur fight free. No need to worry about hammer extensions when your sword does the damage already.
Yeah, having the Tempered Sword there probably saved Kyong, 5 to 10 seconds over Wulfy's hammer strat.
Probably not that much, but considering Wulfy did miss a couple times, it's at least 3 to 4 seconds at a minimum. There's Samaria. Well placed if they wanted to go into Turtle Rock.
Yeah, though, unless they get that fire rod, they're not going to go all that far. Oh, well, you know, that fire rod.
Turtle Rock starter pack right there.
Apparently not the Turtle Rock finisher pack for Wulfy, though. He's getting out of there.
Actually, I don't see Bombos marked on the tracker. Did he ever pick that up? I don't remember. I guess we'll see when he menus to Hammer in a sec. Or to wherever else he's going to menu to. Okay, no, he does not have Bombos, so he could not get in. That was a mistake in my thinking.
Oh, yeah, neither runner's got that yet.
Right, just looking at the log, I mixed it up with the lamp. Or I guess I didn't really mix it up except for in my head. It's even written down correctly in the notes I took. Also, a couple of people I respect in chat calling me commentary god. I don't know how to feel about that, but I'll take it. And in the meantime, Kyong's got a blacksmith. It was a frog, and he save and quit. Wulfy's going to have a tempered sword here fairly shortly. Basically, as soon as he can grab a big key and then dash out of the dungeon. And yeah, this is the Bombos medallion I was thinking of. So, Kyong doing this before going up the mountain does mean he'll be able to go right into Turtle Rock if he really wants to. And I have a feeling, looking at his equipment, he'll probably want to.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically once Wulfy finishes this dungeon and Kyong's finished picking up the items out of Hookshot Cave, they'll have caught up with each other. So we can kind of time from that point to see who might have a lead.
Right. If Kyong does decide to go into Death Mountain, or into Turtle Rock, excuse me, then we'll have to account for another Death Mountain climb on Wulfy's side. But
I mean,
not.
only if they never get the mirror, because otherwise he can just route it in with Hera at the end.
Bit of an if, seeing as they still don't have it. Also, bit of an if, seeing as it's just hard not required for this seed with Swamp Palace being a pendant. There is the crystal pickup for Wulfy, though. Both runners on 3 now, half an hour in, and change. And with that Bombos menu, we will at least be seeing the dungeon opened.
Yeah, absolutely no reason not to go ahead and do this. So yeah, it's pretty tight. Actually, I think Wulfy might be like very marginally ahead at that checkpoint, but
Actually, yeah, you're right, because let me look at items real quick. With Swamp not required, Bombos is the last item Wulfy is going to be required to pick up, and Kyong already has all his required items. So forget what I was saying earlier about Wulfy needing an extra mountain trip. He can just straight up route all that in with Turtle Rock, Hera, GT. So yeah, I don't know what I was thinking earlier. I wasn't thinking big picture enough. And I guess I wasn't technically correct when I said Kyong had all his items, although now I am with that Samaria pickup. And these runners do not need the flippers to get into Ice Palace. Fake Flipper is a well-known, to the runners at least, and perfectly legal technique. And just to give a quick explanation for it, even though I'm sure we'll see it later, if you jump into the water and then you screen transition on the very next frame, you trick the game into thinking you have flippers and you can swim. And unless the flippers appear here in Turtle Rock or somewhere along Kyong's route before he goes to Ice Palace, he'll be demonstrating that tech for us.
So yeah, it looks like Wulfy's heading probably to do Skull Woods. So we may get a very different dungeon order out of these two.
And yeah, why do Turtle Rock now? Because you're never going to be closer to it than you are now, having literally just opened the portal and be standing on top of it, aside from the next time you climb the mountain. And you can full clear it, and you've got all the items that we would call go mode in a normal blind randomizer run. So it's just more a matter of why not. He couldn't put off the mountain climb any longer than he did because he needed the fire rod. So
yeah, we do see that the mirror was there in Turtle Rock in the roller room, which Kyong will have. It's a marginal advantage in a couple of these dungeons. They've already done Pod, which is the one where it makes the biggest difference in routing.
yeah, it's not gonna really help at all in Skull Woods, Ice Palace, and the only place it would really help in Turtle Rock was in the roller room where he got it. And even that's more of a health save than a time save. And yeah, Ganon's Tower is getting called out in chat.
Yeah, I mean, but both of them will have it by GT. It also allows both of them to route, Hera and GT and already being in the Dark World instead of having to go over to the portal after.
Yeah, the only other advantage I can see is that you can mirror, like, if Wulfy had the mirror right now after clearing Skull Woods, he could mirror and flute to 8 to go to Ice Palace instead of saving and quit.
Yeah, I mean, so that's about 4 seconds difference, something like that, between the mirror transition and the flute versus the menus.
Right. Marginal, but not zero.
Yeah. So we do see him save, quit out. The Mothula fight was longer than he would have wanted just because of Mothula staying on the spikes. He just used cape strats to kill it.
Yeah, Tempered Sword does make that fight pretty straightforward. It only takes 4 hits. But sometimes, especially with those spikes, the RNG will get the better of you and not let you get those hits in easily.
So we see a very nice unroute safety in TR in the form of a blue potion, just right there. That's kind of generous of the seed.
Yep. And we did see Wulfy demonstrate the fake flippers technique I was describing earlier. He jumped into the water as close to the transition as possible and got the transition in that 1-frame window, so he was allowed to keep swimming without flippers. Game's very good at handling 2 things happening at the same time. So it was just like, oh, you screen transitioned in the water. Therefore, you must have the flipper.
Yeah, it's an intensely valuable technique for Rando, particularly combined with having the Moon Pearl for the Waterfall Fairy and the like.
Yep. And while Kyong makes his way up to Trinex and Wulfy makes his way up to Ice Palace, chat's asking about the rules to spoiler races, and Nightbot appears to be dead. Would you like to explain those for chat?
Sure. So for a spoiler race, every seed in this particular tournament is going to be open mode Kill Ganon as the modes. They are given the spoiler log, a special version of it, 15 minutes before the race actually starts. And they have that time to plan their route out. It does not have, if you've ever looked at the spoiler log that you can get with just a non-race seed that you generate, it does not have the like playthrough walkthrough. It just has all the item locations. And then it has some things that our tournament admin Synac has generously added to it, such as tree pulls, the bush crab container, what they have, the requirements for entry to Misery Mire and Turtle Rock, and even the number of digs that are required for the digging game.
Thank you. I think that sums it up fairly nicely for people in chat who haven't seen many of these races, may not know what a spoiler tournament is. And on Wulfy's side, we almost saw him get the recently discovered Ice Palace stair clip. It didn't clip him all the way into the stairs, but it did clip him into a position where all he had to do was hold down and he was in. So, pretty decently well done, even if it wasn't the actual perfect technique, which is a little bit finicky in my experience.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty nice cold stare between Tempered Sword and Half Magic.
Yeah, half the rod to burn out the shell, and we'll see what his approach is once he's got cold stare in the corner. Well, he was going for the good old 6-slash strategy, but got hit by falling ice, fell back on the fire rod, cleared it out only slightly slower than optimal.
Yeah, lots of good splash damage off the fire rod to finish them off.
Yeah, that's probably the best part about using that weapon. It does the same damage as the gold sword, and it has the slash potential. Anyways, just looking through, with that Ice Palace clear, Wulfy does only have the 2 Death Mountain dungeons left. Meanwhile, Kyong does have to finish Skull Woods, which he's on his way to the Moth right now. Then he has to go through the same Ice Palace clear Wulfy just did, and climb the mountain again for Tower of Hera. So, this is definitely close.
Yeah, Turtle Rock is probably the longest dungeon that they have to do this seed. So there is that, but it's very tight.
Right, and I don't think it's going to be really possible to cleanly say who's ahead, at least until Kyong is back on the mountain. If Wulfy's still in Turtle Rock at the time that Kyong lands back on the mountain, then that's going to be really close.
Yeah, it's basically their Tower of Hera entry times is the next time they'll like fully converge.
Yep. And normally this is the point where I'd say it's the execution game and there's no more room for divergence, which strictly speaking is true. They've already diverged, they're not going to get any further apart at this point, but like, even just looking at the vanilla game and looking at their speedrun times there, Kyong's is better by about 1 minute and 20 seconds. Which sounds like a lot, but when both of them are under 90 minutes and above 85 minutes, it's not quite that much. And there's definitely room for execution to absolutely matter either way in Ganon's tower, against Ganon, and even against Moldorm 1.
Yeah, absolutely. If one of them gets, I mean, we've seen a couple of runners take a trip down that middle hole. That's about a 45-second time loss.
Shoutouts to people who hover over that hole for no reason other than just to be flashy. But seriously, falling down that middle hole, like, I've seen the best NMG runners in the world do it. It absolutely can happen to anybody. Chat's asking if this is a tile room Hera. I obviously know the answer to that. I'm going to keep you guys in the dark until they either visit or skip the tile room, though. There's no reason for me to spoil that when you guys can speculate and guess on whether they'll need the coffee break.
And I didn't bother looking, so I actually don't know. We'll find out.
Oh, I only looked specifically because Chad asked and I wanted to tell them I wasn't going to answer. I'm a terrible, terrible person like that, but watching chat speculate about things is fun. And yeah, we did see Kyong get the stair clip strat that Wulfy mostly got on his trip through Ice Palace.
Yeah,
it looks cool. Oh, sorry, keep going.
I was going to say, Kyong's entering Cold Stair, so I think he's definitely going to be on the mountain before Wulfy finishes TR. How far up the mountain he'll be, we'll find out.
Yeah. Wulfy does have the long Samaria ride in that puzzle room ahead of him. But other than that, the back half of TR is actually pretty fast. I do think this leaves relatively little doubt that Kyong is probably ahead, assuming nothing goes wrong for either runner in the back half of Turtle Rock, though, and on the mountain climb.
Yeah, but Wulfy doesn't have to deal with dead rocks anymore.
The great equalizer. It's kind of a shame that climbing Death Mountain through Super Bunny Cave is slower than climbing it through Paradox Cave if you play optimally. Because I would rather climb it through Super Bunny Cave under normal circumstances just to avoid fighting. Well, I guess there aren't really dead rocks on this screen, except at the very top. But I'd still rather avoid fighting the one. Well, no, never mind. I'm just dumb and I cannot remember things. They are definitely here, as Kyong bonks into one.
Yeah, I've died to that one a lot.
The ones at the top are by far the most annoying ones, though. Seems like I get stuck on them at least half the time.
Yeah, we do see Wulfy go for the wrong chest on Laser Bridge initially. That's a couple of seconds. And again, I think that's just probably not wanting to focus too much on key routing or ran out of time, something along those lines. He's also entering Trinex on relatively low health, so has to be a little careful here.
He'll probably be fine. I think we'll see him go for the same backstrats that Kyong did, which are relatively safe. No, he's not going for them, but regardless, this is more or less equally safe. Already down the fire head, and already down the ice head as well, and dodged the next threat. So yeah, Wulfy is perfectly fine, guys. No need to worry about that. Even gets the quick kill before Trinex can turn the corner for good measure. And yeah, I didn't answer the question earlier, but Kyong has obviously got his iframes for the coffee break. Get your resident sleepers in chat or whatever other emote you like, because we're not going anywhere for a few dozen seconds.
Yeah, it's a bigger lead than I actually thought he had. Looks like it's about a minute. I know he picked up the small key at 48:05, I think it was.
Yeah, and chat timed it as 48:11 for him to actually enter the tile room. And 49:11 is ticking across now, so it's gonna turn out to be what, like a minute 15, a minute 20?
Yeah, something like that. That was a minute 18 on separation on picking up that chest.
So yeah, In Tile Room, there's obviously nothing you can do to speed it up. It's Link to the Past equivalent of an auto-scroller, so... It does have iframes, though, which is about the best you can ask for there. And honestly, I have to wonder whether either runner, whether Kyong checked in or whether Wulfy is bothering to check in on the status of the race while they're doing their tile room. Because this is a spoiler log tournament, they're allowed to do that.
So this is the last crystal for Kyong. So go ahead and get your guesses in the next 20 seconds for the big key in GT by location rather than a number, because they know the number and the number will be very low.
Yeah, I see people in chat guessing numbers. I see people in chat guessing high numbers. These are very, very silly people. I'm very sorry, chat. But we will not be seeing chests 17 and 20 today.
Yeah, I'm rooting for a vanilla location. I did not actually look, but we'll see.
It's okay. I always go for the bottom left rando room chest. But when I'm commentating, I also always look just so I know what sort of GT we're going to be seeing.
Oh no, Wulfy. Tries to save a little bit of time by dashing across and hits the bumper, goes off the ledge.
Bumper skip is a really cool strat, but the lineup for it is actually more precise than it looks, and it already looks fairly precise. So we do see Kyong going down the left side. Skipped all the chests so far except for that bottle on the torch. And Wulfy's grabbing his 7th crystal right now. And Kyong going all the way, bypassing the rando room. We're looking at either so-called Bob's chest or a vanilla room at least. Isn't able to bonk his way around that portal, though. Gonna lose a couple seconds to those transitions.
Yeah, I've heard people say it's faster if it's vanilla to go right side, but depending on the key locations, that might not have been viable.
It absolutely depends on the key layouts. And I think somebody once told me that the key layout in vanilla is why vanilla uses left side instead of right, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. If I remember correctly, though, going right in vanilla would require the tile room small key, which is obviously slow. So, NMG doesn't do that. Anyways, we did see it in the vanilla room. I believe it was on the top. Yeah, it was on the right side chest of the vanilla room. Did anybody actually guess that correctly?
Well, somebody guessed the opposite corner of the vanilla chest, which isn't a thing because the vanilla chest is the front one.
Yeah, the vanilla chests are in a triangle, though, so no matter which one it was, opposite corner would be referring to 2 chests. Still, shoutouts to Velenoth for at least getting in the right room, even if nobody actually got the exact specific chest. But also shoutouts to being... let's call it clever with your guessing. Wulfy misses the bonk around the portal in that room, but Instead of taking the time to go through both transitions like Kyong did, he took a damage boost. I feel like you don't see that very often.
I will let him say that was intended. I'm not convinced it was.
I think it might have been after he failed. Just because it's still definitely faster than taking the 2 transitions. That Stalfos there was very nice to Kyong, letting him shoot it with an arrow. The Medusa shooter being a lot less nice to him. Two out of 3 on land Motu ain't bad. There's the third, nice and easy. And yeah, the damage boost in that room that Wulfy took is definitely a legitimate strat. But as is being pointed out in chat, it does require some cooperation from the beetle for it to not get stuck and stuff like that. The fact that it was up there perfectly to help him was well done by Wulfy.
Let me see Kyong grab butter out of the pre-Moldarm chest.
It's about as good of a location as any for it. Means you don't need a spin to finish off Moldorm in 2 hits.
And the last chest has some nice safety armor there.
Yeah. That was a very nice pair of chests there. Then Wulfy has basically the exact same Landmola's 2 fight that Kyong did. Not able to make up that couple seconds.
Yeah, he's probably going to need a Ganon fall or something like that out of Kyong at this point.
Kyong almost got the double triple, but still needs 1 more hit. But yeah, Wulfy, at this point, he needs something from Kyong on the Ganon fight in order to make up the time. Especially with Kyong having the Butter Sword, making it so much more consistent of a fight in the first 2 phases. Silver's means that the rest doesn't really matter at all if he can get there, but it's going to be tough.
Well, let's see what Ganon has to say to us today.
I think Ganon might literally be a cat. And Kyong is just bullying poor Ganon with that sword, though. He only needed 6 hits, and he got, what, 10?
Yeah, cleanly and quickly into phase 3.
Yep. At this point, the biggest problem is just not falling. And the warps.
But the warps will be the same for both runners. All of them. All of them, apparently. Oh my god.
I could see that Kyong is getting at least a little frustrated with them. Ganon not lining up nicely to give Kyong a double there, but lights the torches in such a way that he'll be able to get a triple. So get your GGs, man. All he's got to do now is cross that bridge. And there we go. Kyong finishes with a time of 59 minutes, 39 seconds. And Wulfy is right about to drop into the Ganon fight.
Yep, the Triforce tells us that the boots were overrated. I guess it's better to be overrated than underpaid.
Yeah, with how early the boots were this seed, though, they definitely saved both runners a good amount of time. Especially since they were right in the way. And then you see Wulfy having a comparably easy Ganon fight to what Kyong did. Does take a hit from the fire bat, but blue mail means that that's not an issue.
Yeah, now he's going to get the same teleport pattern Kyong did. I think this is like 10 or 11 in a row.
And there's the fourth arrow for Wulfy. So all he's got to do is wait for that bridge to spawn and cross it. And there we go. Wulfy finishes with a time of 1 hour, 1 minute, and 38 seconds.
So just under a 2-minute difference. Pretty good race here. Get your GGs in chat for both runners.
Yep. And then once we've got both runners ready for interview, we will pull them in. And now we do have Kyong and Wulfy with us for post-race discussion. GG's to both of you.
Hey, thank you.
GG.
So, first question I want to ask, is the Triforce a liar? Are boots overrated?
Well, I don't think they were that hard to get this seed, were they?
Honestly, in general, speaking like generally, I think there's a lot of people that may overrate it, but there's also a lot of people that think they're smart enough to underrate it as well when in situations where they should. So it's both, I guess.
Yeah, Wulfy was right. That they were right in you guys' way this seed. Being in the attic at Thieves Town, you had to go there to blow it open. So I don't think anybody would refuse those regardless of opinion. And getting them early let you guys run all the way around.
And they were required to beat the seed, so I don't think beating the seed is that overrated. Now, this is the kind of day where I really wish that I could hover well.
Yeah. With Swamp Palace being the pendant that it was and not actually being required to even touch it, if either of you had or could hover that Moldorm 2 gap, that would have saved you an entire Agate Tower run. But it's one of those things.
Still needed to access Turtle Rock, actually.
Oh yeah, I'm dumb. I said the same thing when I was looking at the spoiler log initially and forgot about that. But you're absolutely correct. Ignore me. I'm silly. So yeah, no getting around Aga Tower there. But you both
Right,
did a
because
good job with it.
of the mirror in Turtle Rock. I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, that was the piece that actually wasn't required this seed.
Yeah, that and the flute both actually weren't required, although they were both so convenient that you weren't going to not pick them up.
Yeah, pretty much.
So how'd you feel routing this one? Were y'all excited on the Aga seed, the chance to do that tower once again?
I was feeling like
Go ahead.
I was feeling like an NMG run for a bit there, doing Aga Tower with the Master Sword, and then going from there straight into Pod.
Yeah, that's actually very true.
Yeah,
For
Kyong92
me,
the double NMG Aga Tower, but
yeah, I ended up doing Desert before Aga for the Tempered Sword, but for me, the route was pretty fun overall, except the very introduction of the seed. I wasn't really sure how to approach it. I don't think I did it the best way I could have. Not exactly sure what would be the best way, but the lack of bombs early was really annoying.
Yeah, that's right. Like, I really wanted to get the flute before the first trip to Kakariko, but it wasn't really feasible to do that.
Yeah, I ended up doing Holoham, buying bombs, getting Flute Glove, then doing Minimal Dorm Cave, and then going to Kakariko.
which I just want to say that's the exact same way I would have opened this seed, plus or minus mini Moldorm Cave. So thank you for showing that strat off to all our viewers.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. We were talking about it before the match, and Wulfy basically took the route that I had suggested as like the most likely one. So I was kind of interested to see that divergence happened within the race itself.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure which one is actually better. It's hard to say.
My thought process was like doing Houlihan to buy bombs costs like over a minute, and just doing an extra walk over to CAC only takes like 20-30 seconds, so I figured that would be better.
Yeah, my issue there was I wasn't. I was so much more focused on the later parts of the seed that I didn't want to spend the time counting the rupees and stuff to see. And I also wanted to get that bottle in Blind Hut to get to Seek It as well. Seek It Heart.
Yeah, and you could have. There was a 50 rupee pickup in the well that you could have gotten alongside the magic powder if you wanted to on your first trip to Kakariko, and Wolfie did get both of those. But then that would be a lot of idle running around in CAC if you wanted to get the bottle in Blind's hideout and Sit Kit as well. And we did see Wolfie skip both of those checks, presumably for that reason.
Yeah, there were a lot of heart containers in that seed anyway. In fact, I think that's the first time I've ever finished with 2 rows of hearts in a spoiler run.
Yeah.
I know for sure this is the first time I've seen both racers finish with 2 rows of hearts in one of these tournament races. But I haven't gotten to see every match either, so.
I ended up really wanting the hard container most because of early thieves. They can be kind of stressful. Which ended up being kind of stressful. I took a very early hit there and went a little bit out of my way to refill my hearts.
Yeah, I got pretty low on health and thieves, but I had powder, so I just refilled midway through.
Yeah, we weren't sure if we would see either of you, and both of you did end up skipping the mushroom spot armor. That was probably just a little too far out of the way, I'm guessing.
At the beginning I was kind of considering, but since Wulfy didn't get it, I didn't went for it. I could have gotten it before Skullwoods, but I thought that at that point I didn't I didn't really need it with everything else we had already. Blue potion, cape, half magic, it's like there wasn't really a need for it.
Yeah, probably one of the safest seeds I've ever played in this mode.
Well, I can definitely say sometimes it's fun to just have a nice, relaxing run where you don't have to really worry about dying unless you really misplay. And I think that seed really was this for both of you, especially once you got past the Thieves Town segment.
Yeah, just glancing at the finished screens that are now come up, it is actually kind of remarkable. This looks a lot closer in terms of safeties to a blind rando seed than most of the spoiler races we've seen. Between Gold Sword and Powder on Wulfy's side, Cape, Half Magic, like a lot of the really prime safeties you guys were able to get.
And in spite of all those safeties, Kyong still managed to somehow come in with a 69 collection rate. That's pretty good for considering.
Yeah, any other thoughts on the seed between you two or Kyong on your upcoming match with, I believe, Ak the Boker?
Yeah, Kyong taking this match 2-0. You do get Ak next round. If you've got any thoughts on that, I would love to hear.
I think there's nothing much else about this seed specifically. Regarding my match against Ek, it's gonna be kind of exciting. I have faced him on my first tournament ever, which was fall 2017. Oh my god, I'm playing this game for too long now. So it's gonna be interesting to play against him again after all that time. I think his way of thinking is certainly different than a lot of people, so he can definitely come up with some very interesting routes. So we'll see how that goes.
I'll be looking forward to watching that for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. I'm thinking this was a nice, safe one. You might have to push your luck a little bit in that match, depending on what the seed spits out at you. But thank you both for joining us on this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both for putting on that good race as well.
Yep, good game. Oh, and one more thing. Just want to give a shout out to that blue guy in the gauntlet who dodged like 10 of my attacks. That guy, he earned a raise from Ganon today.
Yeah. Randomly moving enemies on top of conveyor belts. I'm honestly somewhat surprised we don't see that more often. Anyways, before we wrap up here for tonight, I'd like to run down the schedule a bit, both for the Spoiler Log tournament specifically and speed gaming in general. We did have a round of 16 match between Zero Rush and 1UP40 start on Speed Gaming 2 about 45 minutes ago. That's a game 2 between them. Game 3 is to be played immediately after, if needed. I have no idea how that match is going, so I don't know if it will be needed, but feel free to check that out. And then on the Speed Gaming schedule as a whole, Final Fantasy 1 Randomizer started on Speed Gaming 5 about 15 minutes ago. And Final Fantasy 1 Randomizer is also starting on this channel in about 15 minutes, it looks like. Other than that, we've got new Super Mario Bros. Wii speedruns on Speed Gaming 3 at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so about an hour and 15 minutes from now. And a Super Metroid Community Any % Weekly race at 11 p.m. on Speed Gaming 4. So if you're interested in any of those, feel free to check them out. And if you're interested in Final Fantasy 1 specifically, stay right here.
Yep. Other than that, just give both our runners a follow. They put on a great show tonight. That's Kyong and Wulfy. And I'd also like to give a shout out to my co-commentator here, Reg, and our tracker, Saminas. Or Samimas.
With all that said, I've been Reg. My partner tonight's been Mercer. Good night, everybody.